Hi, this is Rio. Welcome to Skin and Scales. Humans and animals share many diseases. Coronavirus have lived and thrived in animals for thousands of years, but only a handful have been known to make the jump from animals to humans and cause illness. It turned out that coronavirus can hijack animal cells. Scientists believe that the disease originated in Chinese horseshoe bats before it jumped into an intermediary animal and from there found its way into humans. A more precious question is, can my cat or dog become infected with COVID 19? The answer is yes. There is evidence from real world cases as well as laboratory experiments that both cats and dogs can become infected with coronavirus. In Hong Kong, health officials have tested 17 dogs and 8 cats for coronavirus. They found evidence of viruses in 2 dogs, a Pomeranian and a German Shepherd, though neither become sick. None of the 8 cats were infected or have been sick. However, there is a separate report of an infected cat from Hong Kong. Another case of an infected cat was reported in Belgium. But unlike the infected cat in Hong Kong, this one has become sick with respiratory problems as well as diarrhea and vomiting. But in both the cases, pets were living with coronavirus patients. It is very important to know how easily the coronavirus replicates in pets and whether they can transfer it to other animals. A group of researchers in China set out to answer these questions. To do this, they directly exposed a number of cats and dogs with coronavirus by placing large doses of live COVID 19 into their noses. The scientists then put some of these infected animals next to uninfected control animals to see if the exposed animal got sick, could spread the disease to uninfected animals, or both. The researchers found that kittens and adolescent cat can become infected when given a large dose of virus. All 5 of the kittens who were inoculated became sick and 2 died, but all the adolescent cat were able to fight off the infection without becoming seriously ill. After a week, one-third of the uninfected cat that were placed next to the inoculated cat tested positive for coronavirus. These results provide evidence that COVID 19 can replicate in cats and can make them sick. It also shows that cat can transfer the virus through air to other cats. The same researchers also looked at dogs and found them to be much more resilient to the viruses and unable to transmit it to other animals. This is important information, but the conditions of the experiment were very unnatural. There are no studies about transmission of viruses between cats and dogs in real world, so it remains unclear whether the natural transmission is occurring. While this experiment shows that cats and dogs are not totally immune to coronavirus, the lack of pandemic among household pets provides some evidence that they are more resilient than humans are. While we can't say it would be impossible to catch coronavirus from a cat or dog, the research suggested that this is extremely unlikely. You may be wondering if you can pick it up from a pet's fur. The risk is low but not zero, because the coronavirus can survive on surface and is able to transmit via droplets. Theoretically, it might persist on fur, so you should always wash your hands before and after you interact with them if you are feeling unwell. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says that there is no reported case of pets spreading COVID 19 to people. While your cat can get infected, according to science, it's extremely unlikely they could pass it to you. In fact, if your cat is infected, the chances are your cat caught the coronavirus from you. As of now, there is no vaccine available against COVID 19 at this time. If cats or dogs can spread the coronavirus, although the chances of your pet catching the coronavirus from another animal are low, health agencies and public would need to incorporate these animals into their planning to contain and slow the pandemic. Also, if you take your dog or cat outside, have your pets follow the same rules as everyone else. Keep them away from people and animals. And yeah, they don't need to wear masks. Thanks for watching.